welcome to the mystery of the robot, the blob, and the box. Once there were some robots who moved like this. Watch it. Stop. Stop. Very stiff. Stop. You want to try? Come on, let's be robots. Stop. 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 Back to spots. Then also, there were some blobs in the same neighborhood who moved like this. Blah, blah. Let's try. Come on. Blah, blah. Are you doing it? Blah, blah, blah. Back to the spots. Well, one day, the robots and the blobs saw coming from outer space a box. It landed. The robots snuck up to see what was in it. Step carefully. Step carefully. Are you coming? Back to the spots. The blobs came to see what was in the box. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody looked in the box. And what did they see?
A monkey.
Today, Mr. Nelson is having a cookout, said the man with the yellow hat, but only grown-ups are invited. You'll have to play by yourself, George, but don't get into trouble. George was disappointed. He liked cookouts. While the man was getting ready, George went out and sat on the back steps. In the next yard, a gardener was watering the grass with a hose. George watched him spray it all over. When the gardener had finished, he shut off the hose and went away. George came over, picked it up, and turned the water on. It dripped out very slowly. Maybe George could make it go faster. He turned the nozzle. The water came out stronger. He turned the nozzle even more. Now the water came gushing out strong. It went right over a fence and splashed a man who was sunbathing. "Hey!" he cried. "Shut off that water!" George swung the hose around, and the water splashed over another fence. "Who's doing that?" a woman cried. "I'm getting soaked." "It's that monkey," shouted the gardener. "Somebody stop him." The sunbathing man and the exercising lady came running over. The gardener ran over, too. George was scared. He dropped the hose and tried to get away. But all around, there were angry, wet people. He was trapped. If only he could reach that big tree in Mr. Nelson's yard. He ran to the tree and disappeared. The wet, angry people went home to dry off. George was safe now. While he was hiding in the tree, George smelled something delicious. Down below, Mr. Nelson was cooking at his barbecue. All at once, George felt very hungry. Then the doorbell rang. "Ah, there they are," said Mr. Nelson. Piled the steaks on a big platter and went to greet his guests. George looked at the steaks. They looked very tasty. Then he saw something else. The neighbor's dog had smelled the steaks too and tried to get under the fence. He was just as hungry as George. George had to do something. Just as the dog got through the fence, George reached over. Then he climbed back up the tree with the steaks. The dog was very disappointed. It barked at George. But George didn't care. He had the steaks. Just then, Mr. Nelson and the man with the yellow hat came out to get the steaks for dinner. "Oh, no," cried Mr. Nelson. "The steaks are gone. The neighbor's dog must have eaten them. Now what are we going to eat?" "I know what we're going to eat," said the man with the yellow hat. "Look up there." "George has the steaks," shouted Mr. Nelson. "Good work, George. You saved our dinner. Please bring it down now." Now, George was a little disappointed, but he brought the steaks down anyhow. "Would you like to eat something, too?" "I'm sure George would like a little piece of steak," said the man with the yellow hat. "Well, you can sure have that," said Mr. Nelson. George was part of the cookout after all.
Hello, I'm John Miller, and I've got a very special friend to see you today. Very special because he can make himself practically invisible. Now, I think you all know that many animals can make themselves the same colour as the background that they live in, so that they're very difficult to see if they stay very still, which is very useful because people that are trying to chase them, to eat them or something like that, can't see them, and if they are trying to catch something else, they keep very still. What it is they're after can't see them either. We call that camouflage. Well, now, my little friend is underneath this box here, and I've put him there for the moment because if everything's the same colour, as obviously this is a white box, you know, and the only colour getting through there is all the same, then he's no particular colour. But as soon as he comes out of there, and I put him on my hand, or possibly on this nice red background, he should at least get a bit of different colour on him or change it a little bit. He won't do it that much in a studio like this, but I think we'll try, shall we? And let's have a look. There he is. Now look carefully, because the side of him is almost uniform green. And just see if he'll change a little bit and get a little bit darker. He is, I think many of you will know, what's called a chameleon. And look, can you see already? He's definitely changed. You see that pattern that's come on him? That pattern wasn't there just now, and he's on a sort of funny pattern on this book, isn't he? Look at that. It's beautiful. It's gone quite a dark colour, which is very clever of him. It means that in the sort of woods or the trees where he lives, he can change according to the pattern of the leaves or whatever he's on, and anything that's trying to catch him can't see him, of course, because he looks just like his background. Because otherwise he hasn't any main defence. He can look very vicious and blow himself up if he gets cross and snarl, but he hasn't got any sharp teeth that he can bite you with, and so he has to protect himself by simply looking like whatever he's sitting on at the time. Now, he likes to climb around on trees, so let's put him on a bit of a tree, shall we? Here we are, on you go, and off he goes walking to the end. It's not a very strong tree, this. I hope he doesn't fall off. No, there we are, come on. And that's how he likes to be. Now he keeps quite still and hopes that he begins to look like that tree so that you can't see him. But we do want to see him, because I want to show you some other things about him. So I'm going to hold him up again, and let's try, if I can keep him still long enough, to have a look at his head and look at his eyes, because they're very remarkable eyes, the eyes on this animal. If I can face him round a bit, I think you'll be able to see in a minute that the extraordinary thing is about them that first they stick out from his head, second they can look in two different directions at once. Our eyes, of course, can't. They both look forward. But if you can see, one eye can look back and the other eye can look forward. Now, I wish he'd keep a little bit still, but he's trying to walk away from me. I don't really blame him. Now, let's have a look. Now, look at those stalks. One eye, I think, will look back here. Oh, no, he's looking all back here. One eye can look behind him, and the other eye can look in front of him. Just imagine you had an eye in the back of your head. Wouldn't it be confusing, to look all round you at once? And yet it'd be jolly useful. You could see if anybody was creeping up behind you, just like he can. But he makes perfect sense of it in his own little brain. It doesn't confuse him at all. He likes to see all around him so he knows what's going on. Well, now, when he feeds, he catches something that's in front of him, like a fly, and he has to keep very still so that the fly doesn't get frightened and go away. And in his mouth, he's got a long tongue that's rolled right up, rather like those sort of party things you get and you blow them, and they unroll and make a squeaking noise. Well, that little tongue inside, when he can see a fly or something, it unrolls and goes a long way out in front of him, as long as the length of his body again, and it's sticky at the end. It sticks to the fly, and he brings it back, and that's how he eats it. And it does it all in a fraction of a second. Well, now, I'd like you just to see his front feet, because they're extraordinary. See the way he's waving it about? Give him something to grip. Look, it's just like two hands, not one. It's like two hands, and he grips them, instead of just having a thumb and then 4 fingers, he's got those 2 hands that grip it and gives him a very strong grip. That's why he's so... Come on, get on my finger if you like. That's why he's so very, very good at climbing. There, look at all the people, see? And he's got a very dark colour now. He says, I hope you can't see me. But we are seeing him, and we think you're very nice, very friendly little chap. Now, I haven't got any breakfast to eat this morning. I must say I'm rather glad about that. I was getting a bit fed up with these dreadful breakfasts that I have to eat here. But what I have brought instead is a bath for him, because he has to have a bath. He has about 2 a day, actually, and the bath is not being put into water. It's not that sort of a bath at all. But I've got it with me, so I'll put you down for a minute, in my briefcase, instead of an awful breakfast for once. So let's get his bath out. Oh, it's a funny sort of bath, isn't it? In this case, it looks like that, because it's actually a squirter. It squirts out water, because it's very essential that he gets a little bit of dampness on him, at least, well, once a day, preferably twice a day. And so we're going to do that. In the wilds, of course, when he's living out of doors, in tropics where he comes from, he gets dampness from the dew in the morning and from rain, things like that. Now, you'll have to keep still. Oh, he says, he quite likes that. Look, see? Just a little bit of dampness all over him, and that's very, very good for him. Oh, there, he kept quite still while I did that. There's a good chap, see? Oh, yeah, I think he thinks that's very nice indeed. There, he's looking at me with one eye, and I think he's looking at you with the other. All right? That's much nicer than the breakfast I've had sometimes, I can tell you. So I think he's had his bath, and he's seen you all. I think I'm going to allow him to go back into his box, if he wants to go in it, of course. So let's see. Whoops! Nearly knocked his home over. Let's see if he'd like to go back. There's your box. Do you want to go back in it? Oh, I think he does. And there you are. So we both want to say goodbye.
If you like fast cars, you'll love the Dukes of Hazzard Stunt Busters. Wind it up, start it slow, into second, and watch it go. Wow! Old General Lee really gives it the gun. And if that ain't lively enough for you, there's Dukes of Hazzard Speed Jumpers. It starts slow, but then it really takes off. Woohoo! I tell you, it'll crash through just about anything and come out doing a wheelie. Yee-hoo! The Dukes of Hazzard Stunt Busters and Speed Jumpers from Knickerbocker.
A new A-registered Fiat Panda still costs less than £3,000 at Sydney Harrison's in Wigan and selected Fiat dealers in and around Merseyside and Greater Manchester.
Don't let the summer slip away. Come to Blackpool Pleasure Beach for the world's greatest selection of thrill rides. Thrills and excitement all day and into the night. Experience the sensational Ranger Ride, the only one in the UK. Then see a spectacular show at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Europe's greatest amusement park.
Hello, I'm Nick, and that was Steve. Steve lives in my pencil, so I can make him anything I want him to be. This week, Steve is a lighthouse keeper. Here he is. And this is his lighthouse keeper's hat. Oh, really, it's called a sou'wester. It's a waterproof hat. Keeps all the rain off him when he's out there on his little rocky island. Nice bright yellow hat there. There he is. Steve, the lighthouse keeper. It was a foggy night. It was the thickest fog that Steve could ever remember. The fog swirled all around the lighthouse in the darkness. Ruh, said Steve. I think I'd better switch the light on. He pulled a switch. A great beam of light shone out through the fog. There we go. There he is. There, said Steve, that should keep the ship safe. And he went to bed. The next morning, it was